It is. Today on Ops Experts, we're talking about who's taking your money. We're talking about who is taking your cash. How are you transacting things? Where does that information live? Ben Clatterbuck, this is your space. Let's talk about it a little bit this morning.
I am feeling better. Thank you, Kimberly. It was nice to sleep for a day. That always helps. But I'm definitely feeling better. But yes, who's taking your money? That's I mean, shoot, that's like the end all be all of being in business, right? I make a thing and I get money for it. If you're not worried about
now that it's not cash.
Now that it's not cash.
Yeah, these days for sure. I mean, I think the whole who's taking your money thing, it actually took me a long time to wrap my head around because I come from brick and mortar,
right?
Where it's like cash in hand to you, to the bank. Like you have a bank person come stop by your location every week to pick up all the cash. And so moving to the online world, it was like, it took forever to wrap my head around, especially in the sense that like in the brick and mortar world, you have a POS, which usually like, you know, for me in a coffee business, I had a
point of sale. Like we should probably, there's a lot of POSs out there, right? My computer's been acting like a POS. Like I totally had a complete shutdown yesterday over, I don't know if it was the Zoom update or Ben told me my laptop's too old, one of the two. So not that kind of POS, point of sale. Go ahead.
Or not like a POS employee, but like a point of sale. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You
So
don't want your POS to be a POS.
That's right. You don't want your POS to be a POS. Good one, Savan.
That's very fair. I've dealt with POSs in the past.
Oh,
but like they're what hold your products. They are what you're transacting through. They're holding your customer information. Your refunds are going through that. If you have a customer who dislikes their drink, which has happened to me many times in the years, I made a drink wrong. The customer says, I want a refund. I do it straight through the POS. Like all of that's it's very simple in a sense. It's very tactile. It's very in the moment. And so coming to the online world where most of us are and ops experts, what is your POS? Like there isn't really a direct translation from the brick and mortar. It's not like I have an iPad or a POS station that is holding all of my products and information. In the online world, that translates more into like your payment processors, your gateways, your CRM. In effect, for me, a CRM is the best translation of the POS, because ideally, if you're working with a lot of customers, you've got a CRM that's holding all that information. It's holding all of the product information. You're working through refunds and cancellations and everything through that CRM. So just that sort of, I guess, translation helped me figure out like, okay, why is knowing who's taking the money important? Because in the brick and mortar world, it's really easy. Like I know that at the end of the day, I see a bank person and I know straight to my bank. In the online world, of course, you don't have that. So how is your money getting from your customer in, you know, Frankfurt, Germany into your bank account, you know, in, you know, West Coast, Oregon, if you're Aaron or whatever it may be. It's super important to think about. And I think a lot of new business owners, especially in the online space, they just sort of, you know, rush to, you know, straight to PayPal, or it's, you know, straight to what are the other big names they heard, and they're not really thinking through, okay, what's the process of like, how am I getting my money? What happens in between? Is this the right choice for me? Should I go with the CRM, or should I just transact everything straight to PayPal? A lot of those things you have to think about as a business owner or as an ops person who's going to be actually dealing with all the fallout on the back end if the correct decision isn't made.
Well, the processors have made it so simple, right? Like it's so easy. The integration is so simple. You plug it into your landing page vehicle, whoever's housing that, however you're doing that, however you're bringing your product online. It's so easy with the automations and integrations. The credit card processors, of course, make that really simple. And the front end landing pages, of course, they want a solution. They want you to be able to sell. So for both those parties, there's no guilt in that for them. They're just trying to make it simple. And a lot of times that's what people need right at the very beginning, right? Everybody needs it easy, simple, easy. Take my concept, sell it, transact it, give me the cash. But then you don't always think about, is that scalable? Like what happens at scale? What happens when I start really bringing in cash? And am I setting things up on something that could break down in future?
Yeah, great point. And also, which leads me into the sort of points that are important to think about on when you're thinking about who's taking your payments. There's a certain set of points you have to go through that. Okay, why is this important to think about? Why should I be worried about this payment? That obviously is a big one. Future proof. Like, yeah, this payment processor, maybe I'll go through Stripe, maybe I'll go through PayPal, Easy Pay, whatever it may be. Maybe they support me now, but if I grow my business, larger, if I'm adding different capabilities, if I'm adding different platforms, what's the future proofness of this choice that I'm making? Another reason why, understanding this is important is how are you going to report on your funds that are coming in?
Right.
There's much more that goes between the customer to your bank account. There's that in between of who's buying my products, how often are they buying my products, are they buying my products in January, or are they buying my products in June? Are my products more popular in December, or are they more popular in the springtime? All of these data points that as a business you want to know about, especially in the online world. I just spend thousands of dollars on this marketing campaign. How did that perform? Well, if you go through just a straight payment processor, if you're just accepting payments through PayPal, for example, you're not going to get a lot of data points that you can manipulate. You're going to get payment accepted. Here's how much the payment is. Here's the person. You don't get a lot of data points out of that.
A lot of times too, as far as, entrepreneurs, the guys out in front who make the cash, right? Let's acknowledge them out of the gates. The visionaries are the powerhouse, right? Those are the guys that are out in front, the front man of the band, right? They're the one that's out there shaking their moves like Jagger, out there getting people to buy their stuff, whatever it is, you know what I'm saying? Like, they're out there shaking it and making money. But a lot of times they're also the brain that set everything up at the beginning. Maybe they like hamstrung something together, and just the thought process behind, well, what am I selling? How am I selling? And if they start offering multiple products, a lot of times at the beginning, they're not super creative. So maybe they make products that are similar price points. So then if you're pulling all that stuff out of your credit card processor, be it Stripe, be it PayPal, whatever it might be, like, you lose some of that real clarity on what Ben's talking about. What was the product line? What was the line of business? Where did this come from? And then how can we do some analytics and reporting based on that? Sorry, Ben.
Yeah, that's not even just like, I can't count how many times I've seen businesses that have product. The product is simply product one, and it's $5,000. And then you've got product one, $7,500. And you're like, wait, are these different products? Or they have a product and it's a manipulated price every time. We
spinning plates, right? Like wheeling and dealing.
Yes, we know somebody likes this. We're like, sell my product, it's $5K. All right, product sold. A week later, sell my product, it's $5,500. And you're like, well, wait, how are you going to delineate? How are you not going to be able to pull any data from this? We have no idea. It's just constantly changing.
This guy's only got $1,500. Like, take $1,500 now and then squeeze 500 out of him for the next 10 months. Like, there's all kinds of crazy that can come.
Yeah. So being able to pull analytics and reports on that, if you're, say, on the marketing team, or if you're on the ops team and your CEO goes, how well is this product performing? And you go, which products at the price point? Well, we have no idea. So reporting is a huge, I mean, especially on the ops side of it, that's going to be a huge chunk of like where our brain power should go when we're thinking about these payment processes, payment gateways. How well is this going to make my job easier in the future, or how difficult, I suppose, too. You also want to think about how you're going to handle disputes. I know we talked about that a few weeks ago, a little while back. How are you going to handle how your disputes are being handled from customers who aren't liking your products? Some processors like Stripe are a lot more difficult to work with than like PayPal. PayPal seems to be more often on the side of the seller. Stripe seems to be more often on the side of the buyer. So if I have a CRM who I'm looking at to run my business, and one only accepts a Stripe integration and one only accepts a PayPal integration, that should probably affect which way you're going to lean with that CRM. Even like, if I'm selling high ticket items and in PayPal I've got more often got a chance of winning those disputes, I might lean towards PayPal as who's going to be actually taking that cash and holding on to it. So something to think about too. A lot of things to think about. Transaction fees. What are your transaction fees? Most of these processors charge percent plus X pennies. I mean, I can't count how many emails we've gone through the brick and mortar world, Aaron, where it's like, this processor, nope, we're going to this one. Wait, this is charging how much? And now we're moving. I mean, we juked what, 5-10 times that in the past.
I think everybody's got a new spin, and I think obviously really drilling down on, well, what does this mean? And I think obviously for a lot of those, especially the bank centric ones, the ones that are going to move away from an automation aggregate driven like a Stripe or a PayPal or one of those ones where their whole game is no 2.9 plus 10, or if you're at a certain pricing tier 2.5 plus whatever the cents they're going to add on it. Like they've just moved to an aggregation model, but there are other ones that are like more bank fee driven where they're like, well, it depends on what card. And it depends, was that debit or was it credit? It depends, was that a Stripe or was that a swipe or a scan, or did you manually key it in? And all those have different percentages. And so they have a harder time getting you to, well, it costs this much. And then the question becomes, okay, and what's your average trans? Because if you have an average trans, like your transaction amount is an average of $20 or higher. Yeah, some of those bank charges look amazing, but for brick and mortar, that was what really bit us in the ass there was, or if you have a low threshold tripwire, you know what I mean, on how you're bringing people into your funnel, like you need to really ask yourself some of those questions on how much are we paying in credit card processing fees? I think that's a good one, Ben.
And as someone who has worked for a business that decided to pass all of those charges onto the customer, don't do that. just decide the amount that like averages out and makes your business work. Because if someone hands you an Amex or is trying to do an Amex and you're like, you're gonna have to pay 5% more than everybody else, don't do that. Just don't.
Dan, and I don't want to steal your thunder. I'm sure you're leading us into this. Sorry, Taryn, you can talk and then I'll bring in.
Oh, I was just going to mention the unfortunate thing about the e-commerce world is keyed-in transactions almost always have a higher percent fee than swipes because they're riskier, just in general.
Yeah.
So you do always end up with a higher percent than an in-person swipe fee.
And, at the beginning, it sounds like the percentage seems so small. Like, what are we freaking out about? 2.9, 2.5, 10 cents extra. But when you start multiplying those out across hundreds of thousands of dollars, which is almost all of our clientele base at the Collab team, like you're talking about some pretty hefty fees. And, there's a reason why guys like Brad at EasyPay are making a comeback on challenging some of those easy integrations. But I think there are things that you need to really ask yourself and just make sure that you're coming at it with all the cards, because it's very easy to think, well, I'll save all this money by going this new way. But really thinking through what are some of the pain points. Ben, I don't want to steal your thunder here whenever you want to introduce it, but I think Savannah's speaking to even your customer service team on not only the disputes that, Ben, I know you handle a lot of disputes, you have handled disputes for a lot of our clients, but Savannah handles failed payments. And that can be a son of a gun, depending on who's controlling your gateway and how you're getting back into dealing with failed payments. I don't know if you want Savannah to speak to that and maybe pitch that to her whenever you get there.
Yeah, no, that honestly fits right in with disputes and failed payments, on why it's important to think about who you're moving with. I don't know, Savannah, you want to jump in there?
Yeah, Savannah, take us on a fun journey of storydom of customer service. And when the visionary says, but I love the reporting on ClickFunnels, it's so amazing. Like the dashboard is so incredible. I love that because that's it, right? Like the visionary wants to see his stuff go up and see how much it converts. And they feel so excited about it. But when you sidestep your CRM, as in the case of this particular client, it creates a lot of swirl and dust kicked up downstream for your customer service department that's got to deal with all those purchasers when they just lost visibility on how those purchases are happening. So you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so I wouldn't say that I like handle failed payments. Like I don't do necessarily follow-up calls, but I do end up dealing a lot with the people that come into the customer experience department. And because of the way that things often work when there's a failed payment, when you're skipping a CRM, like the customer might not even know. They might not even know that they had a failed payment, because if a CRM you can set it up so that it sends reminders. It's like, hey, you have this in your cart, or like, by the way, you still owe us for this. And so a customer then comes to your customer experience department and is like, hey man, like I gave you $400 and I don't have my program. And then your customer experience department, if you're not paying for seats in a CRM for them to see what's going on, you might have one customer experience person who has the logins to see your PayPal or your Stripe, and they might be able to see what's going on. But the rest of your team probably can't. So then it's taking several days for your customer experience department to get back to this customer about why they don't have their product. And then your customer is even more mad. And then they might just walk away and not pay at all. Or another fun one.
Yeah.
Another fun one is when they get charged twice. and then you only have one person who has the logins, and so it takes 3 days to get back to that. If that person paid $400 twice and they want that $400, you best believe they're going to start blowing up your company on Facebook, on Yelp, on all the things. They're going to let all their friends know that you're and it's not, you're not trying to be smarmy. It's just that your department can't see what's going on. And so they don't know how to help this person yet. And in the meantime, this person's going and slinging your name all over town, letting them know that that you're a crook when you're not a crook.
Yeah, I think
it gets real messy.
all the way through. Like, I feel like Ops Experts Club, what we really lean into is, as much as you can, try and think with the end in mind. I know we're not always able to do that. A lot of times we don't even have control of that, right? The visionary out in front makes like a decision, and usually they're quick on their decisions, right? They've got a new idea. It's the best idea they've ever had. They want to put it into play right this second, no matter what else you've been working on up to this point. That's kind of their MO, and so that's obviously why we lean into things like EOS and L10 meetings and rocks, and what are the big commitments we've already made this quarter, and then making decisions on, does this big new idea, that's the flashiest, funnest thing you've ever thought in your entire life, happen this quarter, or should that actually come next quarter because we've already committed to rocks this quarter? I think those kinds of things help pump the brakes a little bit when you can get your visionary to actually embrace framework. I think that really helps their visionary mind as well. But let's say you've lost control of that. Let's say your visionary has already started throwing product out there, and they choose the vehicle that's easiest for them because they started with ClickFunnels and they've already plugged in their Stripe, and they just want to sell it as a product through ClickFunnels because the sales page looks so much better. Whatever their reason is, they see their reporting because they get the endorphins of seeing their product sell. Like, helping them understand, yeah, but just so you know, if we get 100 people that start having customer service pain and you're selling them into a closed Facebook group, the first place they start talking about that is in your closed Facebook space, right? So then in your closed Facebook space, you've got 50 people that are all pissed that they have a problem. And then that becomes the big issue when really we're talking about, no, that's such a small customer service pain point. But instead they just blew up your whole interface for your whole product, your high ticket you're selling them into. And then what happens in there? The visionary sees that, then he gets pissed that the customer service team isn't handling it. But it's like, no, you literally you took all their power away. They don't have visibility. They don't have control, because not everybody has the ability to get inside of your payment gateway and just handle it the way they might have if you had given them a seat on your CRM. So I think it becomes this bigger swirl on something that seems so small. Yeah. All I want to do is sell a product through my landing page,
silos,
using my payment gateway, but it can be a pain.
Yeah,
Karen, I don't know if you want to
say that. It comes down to, what we're talking about in a sense is the customer journey and how that's going to affect your business. What is the customer journey from their credit card and their wallet to your bank account? And if that's not well thought through with the platforms you're using in mind, with how you even want to sell your product, like, there's going to be breaks in that line. And yeah, just like you said, like, that could effectively really hurt your brand when it comes to people just getting pissed because I thought I was buying a $95 product, but it turns out I was buying a $95 subscription, and you've charged me for the last 5 months. I didn't really know that.
Right.
So that
recurring payments, we haven't even talked about that one. If your visionary got so excited and did recurring payment through Stripe on the landing page, and then that can only be controlled now from the payment gateway, I think that's another good one, Ben. Good one.
Yeah, so all of these key into how do you decide what you should use in this customer journey? How do I decide if I should go with Stripe or PayPal? How do I decide the CRM I should use? How do I decide how this should all work? And some major points on that, of course, are ease of integration. How easy is it for me to connect my Stripe to my Shopify account? How easy is it for me to connect my Stripe to my bank account? How easy is it for me to integrate a product, create a product in my CRM, have that product tied to my PayPal? Like, think of ease of use. How easy is it even for the customer to purchase on an order form, to get tagged, to get an email, to kick off the whole fulfillment journey? The whole point of this is how easy can I make it? Because at the end of the day, you want your customers to buy. And the more difficult you make it, the less likely they are to buy. At the same time, on your ops end, on your customer service end, on your finance team's end, how easy is it to fulfill on these payments? How easy is it to pull you a monthly sales report? How easy is it to pull you a monthly failed payments report. If anywhere in that process, you're grinding your wheels, it's probably a good idea to look at a different sort of payment journey. A lot of issues, like we see with the integrations between ClickFunnels and Infusionsoft, if you're using ClickFunnels as your primary payment sort of gateway in a sense, and your customers are purchasing products straight through ClickFunnels, you're going to run into issues on the tagging of that customer, making sure they get a correct email without setting up some additional zaps in the background or other integrations to make sure data is being shared back and forth. So as much as you can, and I would honestly, my biggest advice is even looking at what you're doing now and think, okay, how easy is this? Because it's really easy to get stuck in the, this is what we do. I just know every other month I have to check my zaps and I have to pull a report from here, send it to there, export it here. Take a step back and think, okay, how easy is this? Or am I just used to, taking 30 steps to get a sales report versus actually just being able to do 2 or 3 things and I got a great report with data.
How accurate is it? How much is it costing me in team time? You know what I mean? There are all those pieces that a lot of times visionary isn't thinking about because they're not in the operational side of things. They don't have to think about those things. They ask you for a report and you go and magically bring it back to them. But the things you have to start asking yourself is this reporting accurate though? Where am I getting this report? And then how much team time did it take to get me this report? And then am I able to take actionable decision-making off of this report? Or is there things that I'm nervous about because I'm like, oh, is that right though? Because that doesn't feel right. And I think there have been lots of times when Visionary has challenged us from different groups that we work with. And they're like, that doesn't feel right. That number doesn't feel right. And then we go back and research and we're like, shit, it's because it's not right. And it's because they started operating outside of the silo. I know, Taryn, you've dealt with that a lot of times. What are your thoughts on some of this stuff?
Sometimes people get stuck in the systems they know and love, which is easy to do if you don't have a support of people at your ready. And yeah, you do end up with things being inaccurate, a little hectic or crazy. But you do eventually reach that point where now visionary is like, okay, I trust you guys. You make these decisions. I make these decisions. I don't care which way you're going. Decide whatever is best for us and I'll follow it.
So some of them have gotten some pretty fierce push and pulls though, right? I feel like we've been in the middle of some conversations that have gotten really uncomfortable with a couple of visionaries. We're like, just listen to us for a minute. The reason we're doing this is this. And I think a lot of times, Taryn, I feel like you navigate really well, especially I know Ben tipped his hand a little bit to reporting, and we're talking about that now, where you've tried to come up with solutions that are speaking to the itch, right? Because there's an itch there, obviously ease. Visionary doesn't like his hands tied on being able just to make something live at any point in time. And as soon as you introduce a CRM, no matter how simple the CRM is, no matter how many looms you create for them, no matter how many times you've walked them through this is how you do it, it's not their native creation zone, so it's new. They don't always like new. They're going to always revert back to what they've known. But I feel like you've done really good at helping them navigate, hey, so what is it exactly that you like about this? And how can I replicate it in the new environment? You want to talk about that just a little bit?
Yeah, I think we end up in this situation where, they're waking up at 3:30, 4 a.m., getting their workouts in, their brains pumping, and they're like, I'm going to start selling this $4.95 and I'm not waiting for nobody. So they go to all their old bad habits from when they were just running their whole company. And before you know it, they're selling something that their whole team doesn't know about on some separate platform that everybody's working on. So it is a bit hard to manage that, but yeah, we've done our best to kind of find middle ground, because you never want, the visionary to feel like they're treading water, because they're the ones leading the company. They're the ones with the ideas. They're the ones that have led to this success. So you really want to ask yourself, okay, let's find the reasons they keep moving this direction, and then let's try to find some common ground, and let's just not keep pushing and pulling on each other.
Yeah, I think you've done a really good job at, usually some of the complaints we've heard come back is ClickFunnels does such a great job of making things look sexy, right? And sometimes when you're using a CRM vehicle to give you a new solution to, especially to like a checkout page or some sort of sales page solution, like that cannot be as sexy. You've come up with some solutions there, I think, that have been great. I don't know if you want to talk about those tools real quick. And then also reporting is another big one, right? Like they love the dashboard. The dashboard makes them so excited. How many people are taking action? And I feel like you've come up with some pretty good solutions when it comes to reporting as well.
Yeah, we've got some fancy reporting. I didn't know if we were going to talk about that more in the future.
Oh yeah, I mean, don't tip your hat too far. I mean, maybe just talk about there are solutions out there, maybe.
Yeah, definitely. There's different plugins we use for lots of different CRMs that make things look better. It's called spiffy because it does make things look spiffy, but we do use spiffy forms. So there's lots of different plugins that all these CRMs people build for these CRMs because they hear the need, they understand too, and filled the gap of, okay, we do need something created that does make these look better, because this page looks like it was built the fifth year of the internet. You know, it's got a few different upgrades, but it's been quite a while.
Yeah, I think bottom line is from all that, and Ben, I didn't mean to just like totally steal your show. I just think too, the bottom line is telling the visionary no probably isn't going to go very well. You know, like, oh no, we can't do that because it's going to do this, this, and this. They don't want to hear no. So how can you repackage that in a way where what's the itch? What's the pain point? You know, how can we like speak to that? How can we address that? I think that's all great things to consider. Did we have a celebrity joining us right now?
Yeah, you do. If you ever say no, you do have to follow it with a but. You have to say no, but.
That's right.
No, but yes.
No, but yes.
No, but we can do this.
That reminds me of that classic Jurassic Park saying, just because you could doesn't mean you should.
Look
it's
at you.
A good idea. It's a bad idea.
I can't believe you just triggered Jared. You just used Jared's trigger. You just used the Jurassic Park trigger on Taryn. That's like his non-resistible. He can't resist it.
But no, it really is. I mean, and most CEOs, especially when you're starting a business, it doesn't matter if you should or not. You just could. That's all that matters. You're getting a product out there. You're trying to get it sold. But when you're in a mature business, just because you can doesn't mean you should. Just because I can, you know, wake up at 4 a.m. and create a product, start selling it through PayPal with no product codes, nothing. I'm just, you know, calling people and saying, hey, send me 10 grand. I'll email you this product. Just because you can do that doesn't mean you should. And it definitely doesn't mean you should in the sense of like, you know, helping that ease of integration for your customer service team, for your reporting team, for all of that. So, and that's always stuff, like you said, it's like trying to keep the CEO in the lane of being the CEO and coming up with great ideas, but not actually executing the great ideas. Like, come up with a great idea, that's awesome, and then let us execute it in this framework that we've spent all this time thinking through the payment journey. We've spent all these, you know, months figuring out what's the perfect payment journey. Like, let us execute your great idea, but don't just come up and blow up the whole payment journey because you got up at 4 a.m. and started lifting weights on a random Tuesday.
So good. I think I think obviously creating a space where you can say that in a way that's not offensive, right? I think that's the other thing is, you know, we're talking about some pretty like nerdy, technical, like crunchy ideas right now. And Visionary doesn't even live in this land, right? This is like a different world, you know? So I think bringing it in a package that they can understand, hey, listen, I know you love all the sales you're getting in the front end, but it's creating a bad customer journey for people because it's turning into more refund requests. It's turning into more complaints inside your closed group. It's turning into more pain in how much you're having to pay your team just to pull apart the mess downstream, even if we can create all the zaps in the world to bring it all back into the CRM in a hope that we can save the day. Like that's Taryn's like, Hail Mary, dear God, I hope this zap is going to fall solve. You know what I mean? But like bottom line is like, what's the customer journey we're trying to take people down, said Visionary. I know you want the sale, but what we want even more than the sale is a longer tail. We want to be able to sell these people downstream at a higher ticket. And if the front end experience, because you got up and were working out and got excited and created an environment that you felt comfortable with, led to bad customer experience, that means all that energy, all that money, all those ad dollars, right, that you put into bringing that person into the funnel, they just exited your funnel with a bad experience because we weren't built to handle that at scale, you know? And I think that's what we're hopefully trying to communicate is at the levels that most of the visionaries are. For the teams that are watching this, we serve a lot of visionaries that are very high level visionaries, and a lot of operations teams that are in the trenches with us. Like, the thing we're trying to communicate to them is, we want your customer journey to be long. How can we make the customer journey long? And that is removing as much friction unnecessarily as possible. People are going to experience friction. There's no way to not experience friction. They're already going to have friction on, are they going to have buyer's remorse? Are they going to not end up liking what it is that you're selling? You're going to have to keep them in the boat on, some sort of like keeping them in the boat, mechanism that you have of whoever's getting on the phone to try and make that person happy again. Don't make something as simple as how you're taking a transaction the tripping point, because I think that there's going to be enough downstream.
For sure. For sure. Next big point on figuring out this payment journey is, of course, the gateway, whether it's Stripe or it's PayPal, and really doing your due diligence on the policies within that gateway. So, for example, what's their fund release schedule? Like, if you're looking at a CRM, you're like, I love Infusionsoft. I love ClickFunnels. They work really well with Stripe, and I know Stripe's worldwide. So I've got the framing of this payment journey going. Okay, I'm going to use Stripe to collect the credit cards. It's going to go through my CRM. The last thing you want to do is ignore what Stripe's fund release schedule is. Like, how often is that payment going to get from Stripe actually to your bank account? And again, in the brick and mortar world, for us, it was, the bank teller shows up, once a day or once a week, and they take the cash. And then the boss is good with that because, okay, I've got cash now, I can start paying for my bills, basically. How often are these processors releasing, or these gateways releasing your funds to your bank account? The other big thing that I see a lot of companies get dinged on that they don't pay attention to is, what are their holding policies? Like, how much of your account are they going to hold if you have X amount in disputed chargebacks, and how long are they going to hold that? I've heard horror stories of Stripe and PayPal holding people's funds up to 45, 90, 180 days because of X amount of chargebacks. So they're going to say
risk,
okay,
exactly. Right? And manage their risk. That's all they're trying to do. They want to make sure that they can pay off people if they have people wanting their money back.
Exactly. And if you're a company who's, especially a growing company, you're like, okay, I'm depending on these pennies to pay my contractors or my W-2s or, to my marketing team to invest in products. If you've just spent all of that knowing you just made a big sale, sweet, funds are coming in, just waiting for that, I'm going to spend it now. All of a sudden, oh, wait, I don't have those funds for 90 days. You're going to be pretty dang upset about that, especially if it's because of chargebacks. So now you've got to handle these disputes that are trying to take your money away from you. And you've got your Stripe or your PayPal that's also holding on to other funds. So you're sort of got double dinged with the funds you're trying to use to run your business. It can become like a snowball effect when it comes to how many funds you can actually use to reinvest back in your business. So super important to read into those policies. Okay, what percentage of my account are you going to hold if I have disputes? What's the schedule and how quickly I can get my cash out of Stripe or out of PayPal and into my bank account? Are you going to charge me a transaction fee for every time I try to pay out from this, for PayPal, for example? If I'm going to use that to pay my contractors, what's the fee I'm paying every time I want to send money to somebody? So all the sort of fine print stuff that, of course, no CEO wants to go through when they're getting ready to launch a product. But if there's not somebody taking a look at, okay, what are these roadblocks that could pop up in this transaction journey, then, a few months down the line, like I said, you can get a huge hold on your account, and then you're screwed. So that's where ops experts come in to make sure that doesn't happen. Or reevaluate, is this it? We really like the ease of Stripe, but maybe we should move to doing everything through PayPal. A lot of these questions to ask and help you decide on how you want to create or at least adjust this payment journey for your company. And also, I would say keeping up to date, because those policies change often. So if you're not up to date, the last thing you want to do is get smacked in the back of the head with oh, hey, by the way.
Bennett, are you, and I don't want to steal your thunder, so just tell me you're dealing with it later if you are you going to touch on affiliates at all? Because I think that's another good one, right? As far as controls.
Sure. Yeah, we could talk about that now. Actually, that's sort of in that future proofing that we touched on. That I was going to get into more, but the future proofing in the aspect of, yeah, is this CRM and gateway connection, for example, ClickFunnels and PayPal. In ClickFunnels, really all you can use is PayPal. So is that connection good enough for an affiliate program that you want to set up in the future? Is it good enough for maybe paying out contractors who work for you in the future? Like all of this stuff, because there's very few businesses that pop up and they have a whole payment journey set up with affiliates in mind, with contractors in mind, with W-2 employees in mind. Like if that's the case, awesome. But thinking about, how am I going to pay my affiliates? Do I want affiliates? How am I going to pay employees? Like, am I going to run a bill.com that's connected straight to my bank account or connected to my PayPal? And we have clients who pay overseas contractors through PayPal. Is that the best way to do it? There's some transaction fees there. So I think a lot of what this is the whole conversation is about making sure that your current transaction journey is good. What's the ease of integration? How easy is it? How can you report on it? How does it integrate with my processes? But also, what's the future look like? Because I mean, I've never met a business owner who says, I'm going to start a business and then just not grow at all.
I think, some of the affiliate conversation too should lead to who's controlling the gateway, because I think that a lot of times that's how we're tracking. Taryn, I don't know if you want to speak to that a little bit, because I know we've seen ClickFunnels has there are some elements.
Sorry, I got distracted by it.
Yeah, Kimberly dropping links.
Link.
Oh, I love it. Like,
And then they autoplay.
Who controls the gate? Don't worry, I saved it for later. We'll play it on the L10 here in a little bit. Savannah listening to tunes in the background, not even paying attention. I love it. So when it comes to tracking affiliates, like that's a big one, right? That's a big conversation showstopper when it comes to how are we going to make sure we know who should get credit and where they entered our funnel and how we're tracking that. So I know, like, we've had customers that lived completely on ClickFunnels Backpack, which is their affiliate marketing system, and ClickFunnels tracked it for you. And we've moved away from that from some of our customers to a more CRM based affiliate tracking system. Do you want to speak to that just for a minute? Because I think that does come up into conversation about who controls your gateway, because there have been others that have approached us that have said, we've got the most amazing affiliate platform ever. We would love to manage all your affiliates for you. But what they're indirectly saying is, and we need to control your cart, and there's some of that where the sidestep could cause friction in information that's being housed in your CRM. Because I think that's what it all comes back to, right? Is your CRM the one-stop shop that has all the information when your customer service or your affiliate manager or whoever's looking for whatever they're looking for, can they go to one spot to get it? So Taryn, I don't know if you want to speak to that for a minute.
Yes, Aaron, I'd love to. Thank you for asking. I think a lot of it comes down to who controls your shopping cart. And sometimes who controls your payment gateway, because if you are using a ClickFunnels, they can only come through like Stripe or whatever they plug into. So they can read it as long as the transaction's coming back. When we use Infusionsoft's controlling the cart. Doesn't matter what gateway we plug into. As long as we're using Infusionsoft to run the affiliates and the cart, we can plug into any gateway. As long as those gateways read the information back to Infusionsoft that this customer has paid this amount, is a verified payment, then they are crediting that affiliate. So you do run into both instances. And then you've got these new companies that are offering the all-in-one platform, cart, payment gateway, affiliate setup. We're only, X amount of dollars a month, but in the fine writing, they're like, but everything over $50,000 you make, we're going to take 2% of, So they are trying to sneak in there and get their little cut of the cake. Because as Aaron said, you got to shake it to make it. So
yeah, shake it to make it.
Wait, shake it to make it?
You got to bake it to make it.
Yeah, bake it.
Yeah, so there is a little bit of a play there. With the two of affiliates, carts, and then also payment gateways. So I guess that's 3.
Yeah, things to consider and things to think through as far as when you do reporting and how you're doing your reporting and where you're getting your reporting from. I think it's just nice when Yeah, you haven't dished out part of the pie, and then you're like, oh, I've got to go pull that from 3 places to get the actual number.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which takes, I mean, that hits the last point right on the head. Can you house everything under one roof? And if you can't, how can you get it as close to that as possible? In Fusion, I mean, that's why we do love Infusionsoft, is because you can just about house everything under one roof. You've got Infusionsoft covering everything. You do have to have a Stripe account, PayPal, maybe if you're trying to sell internationally, but for the most part, you can keep it all under one roof. My whole transaction journey can stay there. I don't have to go to Stripe for refunds if I'm using my CRM effectively. I can do everything through Infusionsoft. I don't have to go to Stripe for my failed payments if I'm using it correctly. I can keep it all under one roof. Really, the only thing I'm having to go to Stripe for, if I really need to, is maybe a disputed payment, and that's that's between, and then it's between their processing and a bank. So it's almost outside of the organization. But if you're having to sort of juggle or tie together with Zap's 3 different platforms for 3 different use cases, and you're hoping that all 3 of those platforms communicate with Stripe in the same manner effectively, it just causes headache, and it doesn't create that sort of ease of use or ease of integration that you're looking for your team. And anything that causes ripples in the payment journey is going to cause waves in every other department. Is going to cause waves in your fulfillment department, in your customer service department, in your finance team's department. So it's not just where, if you have an issue in your customer service department, it sort of just lives there. Like when it comes to payment, like that is going to cause headaches for a lot of different departments. And a lot of different departments are going to try to be working on this problem in their own silo, when you could have solved all of that to begin with by keeping as much of it under one roof and keeping that ease of integration as easy as possible, keeping that transaction journey as easy and smooth as possible. You can save headaches for your entire team down the road if you're actually paying attention to it.
Yeah, I think bottom line is your team's gonna have enough headaches, right? As visionaries grow, there are enough headaches to come along with it, right? Because the biggest pain point that usually comes from most visionary companies as they start growing is we need more people. But if your processes are choppy, more people actually only increases the pain, right? Because those people need to be trained. And if there isn't a solid SOP, standard operating procedure, of how it's done every time, more people actually is worse. Visionaries like, we need more. Why aren't we responding? Why is our response time so bad, right? And so we need more people. Loads up the boats with more people, but the pain point wasn't more people in the first place. The pain point was they had to take 15 steps to get to the answer, and that takes a long time. So then your ratio of labor is escalated just because there's pain points, instead of asking ourselves, okay, as much as we can, because a lot of times teams are the ship's on fire, right? Like they're just trying to put out water. They're just trying to get water on the deck, right? So they're trying to get as much pain addressed, instead of like, and that's where I feel like we at Collab Team can really help out a lot of times, is a deep breath, a step back. We're not feeling the burn of being in the fire. We can step back and say, hey, so I think that you're experiencing this because of actually a breakage all the way down here that's affecting all of this downstream pain. So if we can just address this pain point here, we could probably solve a lot of your customer service pain points, a lot of your reporting pain points, a lot of your profitability questions. All of that can be sourced back to who's controlling taking your payments. And I know it sounds super, super simple, but in some ways, some of the best answers are simple. I heard at Pedro's live event this last week, I thought somebody said it from stage was really well, and that is, complex isn't scalable. You can't scale complex, right? It's just, the best way to scale is, how can you make it as simple as possible? Because you're gonna find your own pain points in the journey somewhere, no matter how simple you make it. But if it starts complex, you can guarantee you're going to experience all kinds of breakage that's going to continue to be the multiplier effect all the way up downstream with your clients. And how can we address that from the beginning? So Ben, thank you for the good stuff. We got a lot of Slido questions this round. Some of them are ridiculous Jurassic Park references. So let's go and check it out. I love that when people find out what Terran's sweet spot is, they just all attack it like on shark food frenzy. It's the best.
Aaron, if you don't mind, I'm just going to give a little verbal comparison on different apps.
Oh, I love that. Yes.
Just gonna spitball here all the different ones of experience we've utilized. because we never just recommend one app. We always like to recommend the app that's right for
Yes.
you. So Stripe obviously is the main one. They've made it easy to integrate with everything. They're the e-commerce platform of choice. They also are a little more expensive because they deal with riskier businesses, like people selling courses, selling the old-fashioned get-rich-quick schemes. So they can end up locking up accounts, but they are the most known. And then we do have Easy Pay. They're a little more less known, but they are trying, the way they work is they try to get lower fees by plugging into different banks at different times. So they're not just running their own transactions, they're like shopping around on your behalf to plug into different places. They do give better fees. Then we had WePay. WePay also gave some better fees, but they did weekly payouts and they kept 10% of your payout for another week and would pay that out the next week. So that one was a little bit more, a better fee, but still, that was the original one that plugged into Infusionsoft before they plugged into Stripe directly. There's authorized.net, which is an old one we dealt with a little bit. Aaron loves authorized.net.
That's my favorite.
Hours
So
on
sweet.
them.
Sweet.
There's PayPal, which is kind of like a separate processor, because on our order forms, we do have like credit card and PayPal. People love PayPal because they only have to give their credit card to PayPal instead of 20 different sites they're shopping at. But they do run things a little bit differently. They don't let you know what payments fail because that they're not processing cards and giving you that information. They're telling you when people are paying you. And then the last one, a new one, is called Braintree. It's owned by PayPal. It's credit card plugin and PayPal on one, because you can check out with PayPal because it's owned by PayPal. They're pretty good. They plug into a lot of things. People have been using them for WooCommerce on WordPress sites. They got some nice fees. They do the disputes really well too. I've been winning a lot of disputes with Braintree because they are a PayPal company. They seem to side with the seller. So quick verbal download of 5 or 6 different options for you guys. I'm sure there's more out there.
Love that. Thanks, Taryn. And then do you want to give any CRM recommendations? Are there any CRM recommendations that you would lean into? Obviously, we use a lot of Infusionsoft. We use a lot of Entreport for a couple of our clients. We use maybe some other ones you want to suggest?
I mean, we've talked CRMs before in the past, but yeah, there's those two: Kajabi, ActiveCampaign, ConvertKit. There's a lot. It just depends on what you need it for.